Hello everyone. Let's see the next topic, which is how to ask right questions during user research. Let's see what else all we are going to learn in this topic. First, we'll see how to ask a question during a user research about the topic. Then we'll jump to formatting the questions, starting the interview, warm-up questions to be prepared. Then we'll see the conclusion. So let's take a look one by one of each topic. Well, interviewing user is an art, whether you are running usability testing, focus group, anthrop- anthropographic research, or whatnot. Here are some good practice for asking user the right questions and asking the questions the right way. While interviewing user may seems to be an easy task. You are just asking some questions and the interview gives some answers and that's it. Right. Well, not really. There are two important aspects concerning the interview and questions. Careful preparation is the first. It has two levels, creating a logical flow, structure and preparing the script, the questions. Having the right mindset during the interview. Then, asking the right questions allows us to get invaluable insight about your user goal, needs, motivation, and pain points. Next, we'll see the formulating the questions. Interviewing user requires a lot of effort and planning. Depending on how extensive the research is, you might spend several weeks preparing for the session, several days talking to your user, and several hours capturing and organizing your notes. You want to make sure all the efforts won't be thrown away because you did not take the time to properly plan your questions. So, start by defining broader themes. This may sound a bit obvious, but the first step is to really think through what you are trying to get out of the interviews. At this point, think about themes you are trying to uncover, not specific questions, just at. Make sure you are aligned with the rest of the team that those are the topics you want to touch upon when talking to users. Next, a few examples of what these themes may look like. First, why do people shop online? How do people shop online? For your customers, what is the difference between online and the offline shopping? Next, we'll see break down your questions to make them answerable. The themes above sound similar, but there are fundamental differences between the topics each one is trying to uncover. Make sure you align with your team on the broader goal of research. This can save everyone ton of time later in the project. The examples above are themes and not the actual questions you could ask your users. If you did, you could get answers that are just too generic or vague. The next step is to break down for each theme the specific questions you want to ask your users, like from why do people shop online to what type of product do you buy online. What type of product do you avoid buying online and why? Next, what do you like the most and the least about the checkout process? Don't ask questions that will influence the answer. A common mistake when forming questions for the interview is to rush things out and try to get to the expected answers as quick as possible. When you walk in the room for an interview, there is a good chance you already have an idea about the answers users will give you, but don't let that intuition get in the way of extracting imperative, unbased results. From how anxious do you feel when an online purchase cannot be completed successfully? To try to remember the last time an online purchase could not be completed for some reason. How did you feel then? Ask about specific moments in the past. Answer becomes less generic and more accurate when users are thinking about a specific time in the past when that situation happened. They are more likely to give you more generic, genuine, and detailed answers, and they will try pretty hard to remember that specific occasion. Make sure your question is promoting that moment in the past. From what goes through your head when an online purchase fails to tell me what went through your head the last time you tried to buy something online and the purchase failed. Prioritize open-ended questions. Some users feels very comfortable in interview and will give you true and complete answers even without too much promote. But in some cases users will answer only what is being asked, not because they are lazy or mean, but just because different people have different personalities. To avoid unproductive interview sections or sections that will end too soon, make sure your questions are open-ended. Give users some room to elaborate their answers as opposed to making super binary questions. From what was the last thing you brought online to tell me about the last time you brought something online. Let's go to the next topic, which is starting the interview. You are finally walking into the room to start the interview with your script in hand. It's time to meet the user and make sure they feel as comfortable as possible being interviewed, a situation that can make most people nervous. Here are some tips to break the ice before you get the questionnaires going. Get into character. You are not the designer anymore. You are a researcher. You who is overall very curious about how people behave online and in particular excited to hear that one story from the one user who are about to meet. Take a few minutes before the interview to get into the new chapter. Breathe, stretch your face muscles and leave all the skepticism and attitude that are typically of designers outside of the room. Keep the right posture. Your body language should reflect the fact you are sitting here to learn as much as possible from your user. Make eye contact, lean your body forward, don't cross your arms, and keep your facial expression always positive, regardless of what you are hearing back from the user. Most importantly, remember to smile. Smiling makes your voice and attitude seem friendlier. which will certainly make the user more comfortable and open to being honest on their answers. Explain there's no right or wrong. This sounds a bit obvious, but it works every time. Let your user know right from the start that there is no right or wrong answer. Make sure they understand you are not sitting there to test their ability to do something. You are testing your product ability to be clear, useful, and easy to use. Start with warm-up questions. Use session with simple, friendly, lightweight questions before diving deep into the topic you want to uncover. Let's see a warm-up questions. In general, these warm-up questions should be related to the broader theme of the section, but should not be too specific or elaborate. What do you do for a living? Can you tell me about your hobbies? How often do you use your computer at home? How often do you buy things online? So these were some questions which gives you on the warm up with the user. During the interview, you are on a roll now, hopeful. At this point, the interview is flowing quite nicely. You are following the script you had originally set up and are also able to adapt the questions accordingly to the direction the conversation is heading. Now here are some tips to make sure you can keep the momentum going. Don't try to sell your product. You are running the research study to gather people honest feedback about your product, not to convince them that your product is the best thing they have ever tried. Don't even try. Control your reaction. Make sure you control your reactions even when receiving negative feedback about something you are passionate about. If users sense you are being defensive about the feedback they are giving, they will stop giving you honest answers, which can defeat the purpose of doing user research in the first place. Give yourself time to listen. You should not be doing most of the talking. Ask your question and quickly stop talking so that user can actually answer it. There might be awkward moment of silence and an impulse from your side to fill that up, but perhaps what you heard. You are meeting that person for the first time, so communication will be hard at the beginning. Every time you gather a new insight from the participant, take the time to summarize it and repeat it back to them. This will give them a chance to either confirm or clarify and will keep you from going to wrong direction later in the interview. Answer questions with questions. It's natural that participants get stuck, especially if you are leading a usability test where they are asked to complete a certain task using your product. They will ask you questions. Should I click here or should I click there? But resist the temptation of giving them the correct answer. Instead, answer with another question like, where could you click in this case? How do you think that could work? How might you get assistant to figure this out? Watching out for non-verbal clues. Pay attention to facial expressions, body language, and tone of voice. A lot of the feedback user gives comes in a non-verbal way. That awkward frowning face user do while browsing your website probably means they have a question and don't feel comfortable asking. Ask them what is it? A continuous learning process. Running user interviews, like any other skills, only gets better with time. You have to try and fail several times until you get the right confidence to get things going more fluidly. Hopefully, the tips above will give you a head start. So here we have completed our the topic how to prepare a questions while doing research. Like let's have a conclusion on this topic. Practice also makes perfect. It can take a little while to get used to answering this type of questions. So I recommend it practicing while a friend or family members take a topic that they know a lot about or a product they are familiar with and get them to talk about it using these questions asking techniques. There's nothing more eye-opening than talking to user and directly hearing their thoughts, frustrations, and joys. Because of this, user interviews are one of the most powerful methods of user research, but they are also one of the simplest way to learn about users. They are just conversations. So here we have done with our topic, with our lesson. So I hope you get it how while doing a research how the questions and how the behaviors should be kept. So thanks for your patience and thanks for taking this topic. Thank you.